everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Vented Out podcast. Today we will actually be doing an interview rather than just a vent session that we hold on a weekly basis. We have my good friend here, Christopher Brown. Chris, how are you doing, brother?
Doing good. Good to be here.
Well, glad to have you here, and thank you for sharing the space here and letting us host our podcast with your equipment, and we'll go ahead and see where this goes. But I really, Chris, one thing, I've known you for about 3 years now, right? Time flew by fast.
3 or more, yeah.
3 or more. We met at one of our local gyms at GB3, and we've been friends since. And one thing that I didn't know until you posted about it was you were in the NFL or you were on the Titans team, correct?
Oh no, I was trying to get there.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
But you got to that level, though, is what I'm trying to say.
The highest level I was in was Division 3.
Division 3, got it.
Azusa Pacific University. And when I was there, my senior year, I had the Tennessee Titans and the Pittsburgh Steelers scouting me.
Gotcha.
So that's when they dropped in and started checking me out.
And how long ago was this?
2009. So after my junior year, going to that college, had a really good year, and then those two teams dropped by to check me out, and that was the year the Pittsburgh Steelers won the Super Bowl.
Right.
So they came out and they measured my hands, did all kinds of weird different measurements. Yeah. So they put me in their system, but I never actually made it. I was just right at the finish line.
Right. No, but that's my point being is that's so far in comparison to you have all these people that are growing up to be athletes, and I admire that. Like when you say the word athlete, you are the person I get in my mind because I know a few people, other people as well. That we'll have down the line. One of them plays in the NFL, and another one is actually in arena football, making his way to the NFL. So that's awesome. I'm discovering all these new things. But you, Chris, you were the first athlete, I would say, like a true definition of athlete that I had ever met. I've seen your posts, and folks, if you don't know Christopher's IG handle, go ahead and go check it out on Splendid Athlete, and you will see what I'm talking about. This guy is crazy strong, crazy physique. He's martial arts, you name it, this guy can do it all. And the reason I wanted to really interview you, Chris, is because with this podcast, I really want to engage the youth, right? Where they have these different pathways of achieving what their goals are. And you see these people in high school and everything, that I want to be in the NFL, that I want to be in the NBA. But someone like you, who was, like you said, at the finish line, which is still further more than most of the people, like probably 99% of the people that try, And I want you to really be honest if you see these kids that want to pursue that. What does it take to get to that level? Now, it's one thing to be a star athlete in high school, and then when you go on from there, go on to college and everything, I'm assuming the level of competition just gets more fierce the higher you go up, correct?
Of course.
So how do you prepare for that mentally and physically? Did you always just believe? Is it really as simple as just believing in yourself and then working toward? You hear that everywhere, but the actual meaning of that, right? Like you hear people say, you just have to work hard and you got to do this. You got to have the Mamba mentality, stuff like that. But the people that do it, they do it, right? But not anyone can say, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and work hard. And I am working hard because to them, they think they're working hard. But how do you think, okay, what is the realistic look at it? Are you always expecting to be the best? Are you always going to try to prove to yourself you're the best? Or do you go, these people are my level or they may be better. I need to learn how I can progress rather than to prove that I am better,
Yeah, that is a loaded question for sure. So, if I was to give advice to anyone about how to get as far as I was able to do, I would start from the beginning, and I would also express that this is what worked for me, and I don't really know any other way. I don't know the right way because I didn't end up getting to NFL, but I had my foot in it. The only reason I wasn't, in my eyes, was over an injury. So it was a freak accident,
Right.
and I'll get to that. So the moment I set foot on the field when I was 9 years old, as soon as I made contact and I went in for a couple of plays, I knew I was going to be in the NFL.
Right.
That was just like, I knew that was my calling. I didn't know what that was at 9 years old, but I never wanted anything so bad in my life. I mean, I just got a Super Nintendo for Christmas,
Yeah.
but that didn't compare to me wanting to be on TV in the NFL. So
Right. You had that passion.
I had that passion, and there was nothing that was going to get in the way of that at all. So with that, I played every single year. I did everything in my power to stay in top shape, the greatest shape of my life as I got older and stronger. It was interesting though, because all throughout high school, my father wouldn't let me lift weights. I don't know the scientific facts or anything, but he was a firm believer that it would stop your growth.
Right, and I think that's a common belief among the general public.
Yeah. I still don't know if it's true or not, but I didn't even start lifting weights until I was out of high school. But I ended up managing and getting a lot done without weights. So throughout that, I 9, 10 played pot run or whatever throughout high school. In between seasons, I would run track. I hated track. I hated running, but I just for the game of football, I was there. I was down for it, And I became really good at track.
And in another way, that helps you with the conditioning for what you're actually trying to do, right? That keeps you in shape. It keeps you accountable. It keeps you on a goal.
Yeah.
That while you're in your off season, as I say.
Yeah, most definitely. It's crucial for someone who's taking the game seriously, the game of football, that is. And so, by the time I got to high school, I felt like I was getting hindered by coaching. There was, politics. There's always politics.
Right.
Who's the starting running back when everyone is good on the team? Everyone on my team was great. Most of those people that I played with, they all could have been in the NFL if they either didn't get in trouble or didn't get killed. There's multiple reasons, there was some people on that squad better than me, for sure. But there was some politics within my play time because I was taking that seriously. The only way I was going to reach the NFL is if people saw me play.
Yeah.
And I wasn't getting the time that I necessarily wanted to. So I wasn't very happy with how things were coming about. My parents, me being blessed to have the parents I had, being so supportive, we moved to an entirely different city just so that I could transfer schools and play for a different team.
Right.
And when that happened, it was actually one of the greatest choices of my life. Because this is still high school, and we played against my old school, and we smoked them. And my new coach actually put me in the game way more than he needed to, but he knew I was there to make a statement. He was in total support of what I was doing and my purpose of being there.
Right.
So even the newspaper caught the drift, and the front cover of sports the next morning was Carmel Burns' ex-teammates. So it was kind of a big deal.
Yeah, I think I've seen you post a few of your articles or the newspaper articles at that time on your IG at times.
Yeah, and most of those came from when I transferred schools.
What school did you transfer to?
So I went from Seaside High. I'm from Monterey.
Okay.
Monterey Bay area. So when I started, I was at Seaside High for the first 3 years and transferred my senior year to Carmel.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then when did you move to Fresno then?
I was, so I graduated in 2003.
Okay.
This is exposing my age here. So, but that's okay.
You still look like you're in your 20s.
I'm working. Yeah, I have to stay young. Yeah, but I moved out here to Fresno in 2006.
Okay. Okay, and then you've been here since. And since you've moved here, oh, and then when was the NFL tryout then?
So, 2006, I was still trying to figure out a way to go pro. The only options I had was to have a university pick me up.
Mm-hmm.
I had some bad luck in my junior colleges because I went to junior college. I didn't get picked up at a university. Some things got messed up with my credentials, being that I transferred schools and they had an entirely different graduation program. So I managed to graduate, but it was under special conditions, and so for some reason that messed things up for me. So I ended up in junior college and used up 2 years of junior college.
Mm-hmm.
Those schools aren't really being looked at, so I was getting overshadowed. So many good players out there. You know, they're not going to look at a lower end school, and you know the newspapers, they did what they could to put my name out there because they saw like what I was about, and they wanted someone from the area to make it. You know, so I was actually getting support by articles, the Californian and the Monterey County Herald. But it wasn't until I moved to Fresno and my track coach actually from my junior college, he had some connections from Azusa Pacific. So I kind of had a couple of years off season, but I was staying in shape and I was doing everything, you know, staying ready. I ended up in Azusa in 2008, and after that, had a great year the first year, and then 2009 came. That's when the pro team started showing up.
Gotcha. Okay, and how did that feel? Did that add pressure to the game for you, or were you just at this point more confident that, okay, this is how it's supposed, I mean, it may not be the road that you had envisioned at the beginning, but now it's finally the car has finally seemed to be on the right road or the right path. So when you see these scouts coming out, are you feeling confident at this point? Are you feeling nervous? Or, you know, how are you feeling?
My emotions never really changed from the moment I was 9 years old. Even though it was a rocky path, I just knew I was going to be guided to my destiny and like where I belonged.
Gotcha.
And that was to be a pro football player.
Gotcha.
It clicked and I had already knew. So it was a matter of me taking care of things, me making many sacrifices within my life. A lot of things I didn't get to do when I was younger that, you know, people normally do and learn from, but I actually learned from other people who were doing it and seeing, you know, the outcome of that. So I was just like, I didn't feel like I was missing out on much, you know, because I was building myself and building my future. So I felt like I was. And so once I got to Azusa and they were checking me out and asking me questions and stuff, it wasn't until there was something they said, but they kind of mentioned that they have a lot of people to look at.
Okay.
And they let me know, like, it was almost like, yeah, we heard about you, or we're just dropping by, you know, we're just checking you out, but just know that there's a lot of people, that we have a lot of options.
Right. That you are not the priority, that in a way they're basically kind of bragging that we are the school that you need, you're not the athlete.
No, the Tennessee Titans were talking to me like that.
Oh, okay.
They were saying, like, we have so many options, so many students who want to go pro, so, you know, don't feel too special, but do what you got to do, you know, to show us what you got.
Uh-huh.
So, but that kind of did something to me, but I just bounced back right to being on a mission.
Right.
If anything, at the end of the day, it just motivated me more.
Okay. So then I'm assuming you got past that and now you are in the tryouts for the pro league?
No tryouts. It's my senior year of college.
Okay.
And they're still checking me out. So they heard about me in 2008 in my junior year, my first year at Azusa, and then senior year coming, I got their attention. They want to check me out now.
Okay, and then what happens after that?
Got hurt. So this was probably my 10th or 11th year of football.
Okay.
Never really got hurt. Never really had a season-ending, career-ending injury. I've had my share of concussions. I've had probably about 7 or 8 in my career, but I kept running. That didn't stop me from running. But my senior year, I tore my MCL, and I say it's a freak accident because no one even hurt me. No one tackled me. I wasn't touched. I was just making a typical cut like I normally did, and my knee just blew out.
I think that recently happened with Odell Beckham Jr. He was trying to make a play, and it just I don't know if it was the ACL or the MCL. I didn't really pay too much attention, but same thing happened. I know
He was untouched?
He was untouched.
Yeah, so that had happened, and me being so determined, I felt it. I sat out for a couple of plays, and then I went back in. By the end of that game, I was suffering quite. That was probably one of the worst pains I've ever been in, sitting on that bus on the way back home. I didn't realize how bad I hurt it, and just the fact that I kept running on it was quite amazing, because he told me that afterwards that it was a level 3 MCL tear.
Yeah, and I think that's the highest level, or is it 4?
It is the highest level.
That is okay.
Yeah. So after that, I had to take 2-3 games off. This is my senior year, and I'm missing games, and I worked my way up to get to this point.
Yeah.
Not to miss games, you know. And it's just to think about my parents. They've made it. They're so dedicated and supportive. They made it to every football game I've ever played in. My father missed one because he had a brain aneurysm. And he actually filmed every game too. So it was almost like a tradition. I would play, he would capture it, and right away we would go home, and I would just watch all the plays, and I would study everything.
Being how active you are, and I know you don't have time right now because of how busy you are with everything. Have you ever thought about doing, because Fresno, I truly believe Fresno has a lot of hidden athletes. You think of the people that go out of the programs here. You have Devontae Adams, you have Aaron Judge, you have Derek Carr, Paul George. You could go on. Even in bodybuilding, you have Flex Wheeler, and you have all these different athletes that are products of the Fresno programs. Have you ever thought that you could probably be out there, not necessarily coaching, but making something so the kids that do have that talent to make it to the next level, or the kids that want it just as much as you did at one point, that you may be able to help them? Have you ever thought about doing anything like that?
I've been told many times that I should be coaching and teach my knowledge and stuff like that. I still feel like I'm trying to find my path. So until I'm satisfied with myself,
right,
I think that would be the time that I feel like I can share my journey in a sense to where I'm doing it full time, or because anything I decide to do, I invest in it.
I fully believe that.
Yeah.
I've seen folks. He also does video and photography, and in my opinion, the best I've seen in Fresno, and it's crazy. You've done some of the editing for me, and there's no one else I would pay or have anyone else do the editing that you had done. And that's not me praising you because you're a friend. That's because I appreciate the quality of work. He made the schedule that accommodated with me, and then once we got that done, for example, when we did the last edit, I literally had the vision myself, and we had it, and I'm like, okay, I wanted to kind of imitate Dragon Ball Z, right? It's an anime, and it's something that I grew up with, and something that motivates me, and I wanted to really make something different than most people would do, and I just told him what was on my mind, and what he put out there was better than what I had in my mind. He had all these numbers. In fact, like I know you whenever you're free, I know you play around with all your equipment and everything because I could tell the difference in each video that you have. The first time we did the video where you added the numbers and the special effects, and it's taken off from there. Yeah. It's gotten a lot better. And so I know when you talk about you want to be perfect at everything, and that's a drive, and that's cool because I do think you're able to channel that passion in the stuff you're doing right now, whether it is lifting, whether it is martial arts. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. How do you?
Capoeira.
Capoeira?
Yeah.
Okay, capoeira. It's like,
you got it.
Yeah, it's amazing. It really reminds me of the whole Avatar, the last Airbender type of the Airbender movie.
I get that a lot, yeah. Yeah. You should see the people who are actually good at it, because I'm self-taught. These people, so I went to Chico just last weekend, and they put me up against a few teachers for me to earn my belt. They tested me, and then they made me earn my belt afterwards. But those guys, they're legit. They're amazing.
Where is that from? Like, where's that form of martial arts
So
from?
Capoeira originated as an African thing, to where the slaves on a ship were trying to survive, and they resorted to fighting. But in order to prepare themselves to fight, they had to figure out a way to do it without the guards realizing that they're preparing for battle. So they disguised it as a dance.
Now, that was the other thing. The first time I saw you, I'm like, okay, is this like some type of dance? And it really does come off as that, and that's pretty cool because it has a unique style to it too, right? And you may think that it's just a type of a dance, but then you apply it to real life. I don't need someone to test it on me. I already know it's a one-hit KO type of thing, especially for someone that doesn't know how to fight.
It's definitely got its pros and cons.
And I'm sure like it's one of the fun martial arts to learn. Not saying there's any boring one or anything, but I feel like that's something where kids would probably enjoy too, because you said it's set up like a dance, and it has two benefits out of there. It probably teaches you a lot of better mobility, and then also coordination, how your hand-to-eye coordination and all that stuff. So that's always wonderful to see. Is there any facility here in Fresno that teaches that?
There isn't. That's why I'm just self-taught.
Okay, gotcha.
And my friend Anthony Atlas, we're the only two out here who do it. We practice on each other. In the beginning, we were kicking each other in the face trying to figure it out, because we would watch something on YouTube, and then we would try to replicate it as best as we can. But we discovered these guys in Chico because they came to Fresno State to do a demonstration.
Gotcha.
We heard that they were coming, so we showed up. And ever since, we've been connected to those people out there. But that's pretty much I guess Chico is just as far as L.A., but as far as I'm concerned, that's the closest place to train.
It's crazy because you have so many venues that whenever you are ready, I think you could tap into all these and just be successful in all of them. I mean, you could probably open one here, and once you've earned whatever type of respect you're looking for in that martial arts, and then on the coaching side, obviously you know what it takes, and then you could do that. What I'm saying is, man, whatever road you choose in the future, I'm pretty sure it's a bright one. Just keep at it, and I think what you're doing with your photo and video, that's also great, and I'm glad it's keeping you busy. It's another form of hobby that you're able to go ahead and explore your passion through. And then, is there anything else you're doing on the side right now, or something you're trying to get into
I've learned that it's best to get it established first before speaking it into reality.
Okay. Okay, that's a unique mindset because, you hear a lot of different opinions or different ways. I've heard too many of the people that are like, oh, just go for it. It's never going to be the perfect time. But I'm also kind of the type on your side where it's like, well, yeah, you could take a risk, but to take a risk in something you have zero knowledge about, or you have zero pathway about, or something you haven't thought of, you can't just drop $50 in something that you don't know. Right. You have to at least know, okay, that you have to at least know some sort of background. And if that's the way you're going to go about it, then that's great. Because I know, I feel like nowadays, a lot of people already know a lot about photo and video, right? But not everyone is willing to go to the next level where you have to put in work. You have to learn how editing works. You have to learn what is the best type of editing, because you could have the same person, or you could have different people edit the same picture, but the person that's played around with the tools a lot more is probably going to come out with the best result. So
that, and on top of that, that's why there are so many photographers, and there's not just one that is dominating everyone and in business and putting everyone else out of business, because everyone's got their own style.
Yeah.
I make friends with other video creators because to me, it's not a competition. We all have our own niche, and we have our own clients that prefer us over the other guy, So there's never any friction on my end. Can't say the same for other people, but there's elements there that it helps you realize a lot.
Well, when you collaborate together, you learn new ideas off of each other, and then that helps you perfect your own craft.
If they're willing to share.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Although that's why it's you're talking about collaboration and making friends with other people, and I think those are the people you want to, if I'm going up, like I'm pulling my friends up with me, right? Like that's the type of attitude I feel like is no longer in the society.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel that everyone thinks that everyone's out there to get at each other. That's actually why we started the Vented Out podcast. Was it's just my buddy Justin and I. He wasn't able to join us today. Shout out Justin, but next time he will be. And we were just talking, and we're talking about all these different things nowadays, right? Whether it's politics or movies or whatever, and it seems like everyone is just at each other's throat on every opinion. It's like it's either you're right or I'm right. It's never
open-minded discussions.
Yeah, and we were actually, when we first started it, we're like, all right, we're gonna go ahead and call it an open-minded podcast. People already had that.
Oh, really?
Like, all right.
You had that as an idea, as a title?
Yeah, but then there's already one that exists, and then there's several other names that came out, and then we just couldn't get those names. So then we're like, all right, well, vent it out. We'll just put 2 V's. No one's done that, so it's Vented Out podcast.
Vent.
And it's literally, just like right now, we are venting out. This is an interview.
It's a form of venting,
but it's an open interview, right? Like you're free to say whatever you want. Obviously, like I don't want you to offend anyone else, nothing like that. It'd still be professional, but vent about it. Any topic we have, we vent about it on here. And when it comes to interviews, you being the first interview, we want to kind of have a separate thing where the interviews are a little bit more professional, like we are right now.
Mm-hmm.
And then the vent sessions are a little bit more about where we are just giving out our own opinion. But back to the interview for you, Christopher Brown. Like, have you ever thought about, if you were, your NFL dream, right? Obviously, you had to end it, and it had to end on a sour note. But did you ever have to, accommodate that? Did you ever have to really dwell on it? And I really want to bring this up because everyone has big dreams and they're not prepared for possible failure, right? They're not prepared, not that you failed or anything. Obviously your circumstances is what failed you, they're what failed you, not yourself, not your passion when it comes to becoming an NFL player. And I think it's important, especially for the kids that are growing up or that are listening to this podcast and they want to be this one thing someday. You know, if they were to fail, like, I don't think they understand the magnitude of that, right? Can you explain that when you actually couldn't reach the NFL, right? And that's a dream you unfortunately had to let go in terms of being a player in the NFL. Maybe you'll be a coach there someday. I don't know. But as a player, you had to stop there. Was it hard for you to come into realization of that? That the teams that once wanted me, they're not going to give me a chance. Did you have to go through some dark phase to get out? These are the mental aspects I really want to focus on in all my podcasts, mainly because it's one of the things people neglect, right? They don't bring out the failures. They don't bring the mental breakdowns they have. They don't bring up the mental issues that come along with it that affect their life from their own.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So if you can just give us your perspective on what did you go through in terms of, mentally and physically. Once you got that injury, did you feel like, okay, I have another shot? Or was it from that point, it's come to a realization, okay, it's this is one of those injuries at that point I think was a serious injury. Nowadays, you could recover and come back and play. I mean, you have people like Adrian Peterson that came out and won the MVP after
a trillion injuries. So that's my favorite football player, actually. Took a lot of inspiration from him. And so with your question, it's funny because this is my second podcast. My first one was last night, and me, Pablo, and Greg here. That was an entirely different thing. But I kind of touched on this subject, but I could go a little bit deeper on it now. For those who didn't tune in last night, when I got hurt, I bought the $700 knee brace, and I was still going. It didn't matter to me. This is my senior year. This is what I worked my entire life for. I didn't have a plan B. I wasn't interested in a plan B because I knew where I was going to be. I knew where I belonged. Even then, I wasn't. I still don't feel like I was. You know what? When I got hurt, that's when I started stressing a bit because I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know how fast I was going to recover, but I still gave it my all. And even when I was running with that $700 knee brace on, it felt like my legs were going sideways when I was running. It felt crazy. But I played, I think I missed 3 games, and then there's another 3, and that was the end of it. But I did not hear from them again after that. I don't even know what happened. I don't know when they disappeared. I got hurt that one game, and then the next game happened, and I was on the sideline. It was probably what's wrong with him? Oh, he's hurt? Oh, okay. On to the next one. And that goes back to what they told me. It's kind of almost like a warning, hey, don't mess us up. You have our attention now. We have a lot of options. We're watching you, though. We're actually putting people out there to check you out, and come back to us, let us know what they think. When that season ended, I dropped out of college. First of all, that college, that's $30,000 a year. And I was only on a half a scholarship. So I was owing some money, and it was stacking high. Track coach wanted me, but wasn't willing to put down anything for me. So I bounced. And so it began my 4 years of deep depression. I was lost. I had no idea what to do or where to go. After that, I had moved back with my parents briefly. I had met a girl, moved out there to San Diego. Was trying to just how I start something, every time I start something, I give it my all. I fully invested in it. So I moved out there early to try to find a job, sleeping in my car because circumstances I couldn't like move in with her or anything. She had roommates and stuff. So that wasn't possible. So, but that wasn't going to stop me. I, try to make things happen with that. Relationship didn't work out, but in between that, I was still training. I was still trying to find something. NFL was just it was just gone.
Right.
I was talking to my brother because he's in LA and he makes movies and he knows a lot of people, but he knows a lot of agencies as well. So I feel like maybe he could help me with some sporting things. And I mentioned NFL, and they're like, "Well, we can see what we can do about Canadian football." But the NFL is kind of hard to reach. So I felt like I had that grasp and lost it. And then that was it. That was like the closest I got to it. And then, so yeah, no trials ever happened. No actual official NFL tryouts, that is. During the time when I was living in San Diego, somehow, I can't even remember if I ended up getting an agent and he hooked me up with a tryout for the Edmonton Eskimos. And I went out there ready to go. My leg was good. My leg was actually fine at the end of that season. It was so weird. Like I was fully healed, ready to go, but it was over. It was done.
Right.
And so with this Edmonton Eskimos tryout, I was killing it. And these coaches were coming up to me. They started approaching me like, "Hey, you got a passport? Hey, you got this, you got that." And then back to drills, I was doing a drill, like a one-on-one, and this guy, I was going heads with this guy, passed him, ran, caught the ball, scored a touchdown. When I landed, pulled my hamstring.
Is this, sorry to interrupt you, is this for the CFL?
This for the CFL.
Okay.
Edmonton Eskimo. Yeah.
And you pulled your hamstring.
I pulled my hamstrings during the tryout, scoring a touchdown.
Oh, man.
And I tried to I tried to hide it because I was like, oh, damn, I felt something go up like a paper. Like it felt like newspaper just going up my leg, and I felt the pop. And so I was just kind of walking. I was holding on to the ball, and I started jogging, and my legs started feeling heavier and heavier with pain. And the guy's looking at me. He's like, "Are you okay?" I was like, "Nah."
Is this the same leg?
I think so.
Yeah, okay. Then
I think it's my right leg on both occasions.
yeah, because I know that even if you heal from any injury, once you're injured, like you rupture something, it's just never going to be the same. And I think like whenever you said you were fully healed, which you were, but your muscle is just not able to handle the same pressure that it once could.
Right.
But your work ethic is still at 100%. And if you're trying to push in the 80% muscle to match that effort, you see where I'm going with that, right? Like,
I remember thinking that I should not have done legs 2 days prior.
that probably did.
So
too.
there's a lot of things I also was naive about as far as the weight room. Like I wasn't that familiar with. Nothing against my college, but the program at the time was not the greatest. I didn't learn anything. We were just lifting heavy weights. So it wasn't, one of those things to where I was in this top dollar program and getting all the things I need, nutrition and healing and all that stuff. We were just lifting like crazy. My form was disgusting. I look back at YouTube videos of me squatting. It was ridiculous. It was bad. And I was in college football, so the program could have been better. And I think that's ultimately why. I feel like that's why I got hurt, because my hamstrings were already shot from doing legs, and I didn't put two and two together, So I'm getting off track here. Depression. I was deep under, and I brought up the relationship just because that didn't help. And I'm not sure if I jumped into that in attempts to make myself feel better. I still don't even understand what I was going through, what my mind. I was just a lost soul. And at that point, I didn't really care much for anything. So I made a whole lot of mistakes. I learned a lot. Let's say that. Because, as long as you learn from your so-called mistakes, they're not necessarily mistakes, in my opinion. So it was hard. Even today, I don't really watch the NFL.
Right. I would assume because it's probably bringing back that part of you where it's like, man, I wish I could be out there.
I sit there and I try to bond with my father because he loves football. And even he was kind of pushing me like, I was 30 years old. You can still make it. You can still do it. I'm like, it's over, Dad. We have to let it go,
Yeah.
So even for him, it was hard because he saw my drive. He saw my passion. But with that, we were, I was trying to I wasn't even looking for another path. I was just existing for 4 years. I don't even know, like, you're going to have to help me with, like, specifics here on what you want to know because
we don't have to get into too deep into it. If you want to, that's completely fine. But whatever is on your mind, man, I'm not going to stop you from saying whatever you're going to say because at the end of the day, I think it's something that some people need to hear. So
yeah, well,
say what you want to say.
Failing at football, which was like what I thought my life calling was, it was pretty devastating. Probably the most devastating thing I've dealt with. And I've had a lot of stuff. Just some of the things I sacrificed for football. It's kind of crazy to think about today, And sometimes I even go back and I feel like, damn, like I should have been a boxer. I should have moved here and just got into capoeira. I didn't know much about capoeira until I started playing Tekken. And I'm like, wait a minute, that's actually real? That's an actual fighting style? I want to learn that.
Yeah.
I found out I was in LA. I'm like, oh, that's too far, But, after football, the next few events that happened in my life didn't help. That's when I eventually started sleeping in my car just because of situations I had put myself in, and I was just stuck, broke, working in a sales jobs, trying to sell vacuum cleaners to people who were yelling at me. There was one guy I was trying to sell a vacuum cleaner to, and I was just giving him this sales pitch. And I remember he was sitting down like, man, I got this guy in my house. Like, he thought I was just going to be there to clean his place. But then, like, we turned the tables on him, and then we tried to sell him this $500 vacuum cleaner. I remember he sat down and he like pulled his shirt up. He had a Confederate flag on his belt buckle. And he like went like that. I was just like, what am I doing here?
Yeah.
But a bunch of stuff happened. I don't. You say you got kids watching this, so I don't want to go into too much details. But it was a dark thing, and maybe I can't even tell you when the depression started letting up. The depression's still there.
I think it's one of unfortunately it's one of the emotions that I don't think anyone ever truly heals from. And there's really two ways to take it, right? Like in one way, it's you could either dwell into it, which takes you back to where you were at the very beginning.
I think that's what I did in the 4 years.
Okay.
But then after that, I started living my life.
Yeah.
But some things just don't go away.
Yeah. No, it's, and that's, I feel like society has this image that everyone is supposed to be happy all the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
They really try to cater, do what you love, be with the people you love, you know, but in reality, I think sometimes you do things, you force yourself to do things that necessarily you don't have to love. Like, if it's going to pay the bill, it's going to pay the bill. You don't have to love it, right?
Out of obligations.
Out of obligations,
society
out of
standards.
the fact that it's life, right? Like, and then you don't always have to be with people that make you happy. And although spend as much time as you can with the people that make you happy, right? It helps with the recovery. But at the same time, at some point, you're going to have to face yourself. And if you cannot be happy when you're just by yourself, I think it's because you're denying some part of you that is missing.
Yeah.
And if you are always just trying to be around other people because they are the way they make you happy and you can't be happy by yourself, sorry, but I think it's time you start exploring why that reason is, right? Like, you could have a temporary fulfillment, but until you don't, the cause is never like the problem. It's the root of the cause, right? So like for you, it wasn't just the fact that you didn't make it to the NFL. It was because you happened to get injured, which ended up, after all the work you've done.
That's one way of putting it. Yeah.
Like, it's a cause and
Different way of thinking.
and in another way, like, you kind of also have to hold yourself accountable and be like, no, this is a problem. I am facing this. I am dealing with this. And I need to get comfortable where I don't need other people's company. And again, not that other people's company is bad. Spend as much time as you can with your family, with your friends that make you happy. But they shouldn't be your sole purpose of being happy, if that makes any sense.
It does. I feel like I've actually made the most evolutionary progress of the things in my life, me as a person, spending time to myself.
Yep.
But I can understand someone who can't do that. I do
Absolutely.
understand people who drown themselves in alcohol, sex, violence, whatever, gaming. There's a list of things, drugs, so many different ways you can just hide from, not just people. There's a lot of elements. You could still be alone and just totally mess your head up
Yeah.
through alcohol, But soberly sitting with yourself, that is painful. Mm-hmm. That's why I can understand people who drown themselves in other things, because that is a tremendous amount of emotional, but it's not traumatizing. It's healing.
Right.
But it doesn't feel like it because you want it to go away. You don't want that pain. You don't want that depression to be there. So, you do what you can to make it go away.
Right.
But it takes a lot to realize that sitting with yourself soberly and fully conscious of what you're doing and why you're doing it is it takes you far, knowing that you will actually benefit from it. I feel like a lot of people don't realize that they would benefit from it.
Well, how would they? They're surrounded by social media. They're surrounded by all these different apps where you never feel like you're by yourself, right? Like, it's man, people need to start taking like social media breaks and everything more often. And like you said, sit soberly with yourself and see if you're truly happy with what you're doing and where you are, right? Because when you're on social media, it's easy to feel like you're on the right path all the time because you're only going to see the people that support you. But then also the negative impact where you're on social media and you're so quick to see the highlights of other people's lives and be like, why am I not able to get that, right? Like, yeah. Because everyone's posting on their, for example, on Instagram, everyone's just going to post the fun they had at parties, the PRs they're hitting in the gym, the greatest things they're doing in their lives. And that probably accounts, and not for all. Maybe there are people out there that are doing this full time where they are living the best life that we all want. But I guarantee you, there might be a genie in a bottle. But
there's a scientific evidence that really heavily affects people.
Yeah.
I have a friend actually. He hates social media. He doesn't have an Instagram, but he has a Facebook. But he says every time he goes on Facebook, he gets depressed because it seems like everyone else on the planet is having a better time at life than him.
yeah, no, been there, done that. Like, I think it's just like if you were to watch, a highlight reel of like any basketball player from the 90s, and all you're watching is the shots he made, you're not going to realize he only made 28% of his 3-pointers, or
because he shot 300 times. Yeah.
in that video, and it's overlooked, man. And I think and that's what I mean. People need to step away from social media, or if you are on social media, be real with yourself and realize that everyone is working on themselves, that everyone is working toward getting I haven't met a single person that has said, I'm unhappy and I want to stay unhappy and I'm just going to stay stuck. And right. Like, even if they say, man, I'm stuck, but I'm trying to find a way, right? Like, I'm trying to find a way to get somewhere. I don't know when I'm going to find it, but I'm trying. Right.
That's why I tell people when they ask me, what can I do? And I tell them all you can do is your best. Just check in with yourself. See if there's any other way you can do better.
Yeah.
That's really all we have, to the best of our abilities. If there's something you want, but you don't have the ability to get it, then you're going to have to start from the bottom or a lower level until you get to that point.
No, I fully agree with you on there. And with that, Mr. Brown, we are going to be ending today's interview session.
We have an hour in. Because we missed 30 minutes, so we got 33 minutes.
It doesn't matter. It's been a pleasure to have this interview with you. Again, I want to thank you for letting us use all this.
Oh, yeah.
And this most likely won't be the last time we interview you. Next time, hopefully I have my boy Justin with me. But also, if there are any questions you want to ask any of our guests that we have, you're more than welcome to go on the Vented Out Podcast Instagram page or YouTube page. You could email us the questions you want to ask, not just for Chris, but for any upcoming interviews we will be announcing on our Instagram. And you're more than welcome to send in the type of questions. We want to be able to bring in businessmen. We want to bring in, athletes like Chris. We want to bring in as many professionals to discuss mental health, to discuss all these serious issues that are commonly denied, or not denied, but ignored. And I see that in a lot of people, and I think it's time that we actually start talking about these things. So we're going to go ahead and end this interview. Thank you again, Chris, and we will see you on the next one.